What's up, everybody?
Hey everybody, this is Jorge and Sam from Team JVS. Just want to give a quick, hopefully we'll make it quick, but our thoughts and reactions to In the Heights, a film that is, at least for me, it's very dear, touches me in a lot of ways. I'll go into that a little bit more, but I'll let Sam kind of give a quick synopsis of the film, and then we can kind of just jump right into it.
No problem. The scent of a cafecito hangs in the air just outside of 181st Street subway stop. The likable, magnetic bodega owner saves every penny from his daily grind as a hopes to imagine and sing about a better life. So, let's get into it.
Awesome. So I will say, from the jump, just to lay it all out there, if you are from the Caribbean, no questions asked, and I know Sam probably won't agree with this, stop what you're doing, and when this comes out, immediately go watch it. No questions. If you're watching this review beforehand, just stop and go watch this movie.
Yeah.
For a lot of people who, as soon as the movie starts, it clicks in so many different ways with the Caribbean culture. Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Dominicans. It just hits at all the right spots. From the way that so the main character is Usnavi, and he's like Sam was saying, a bodega owner. And little things like the coffee that they have in the back of the shop, when they talk about un cafecito con leche, milk, coffee with milk, it's just, it hits in certain ways. This does also star, you'll see a lot of Hamilton influences in this. Obviously, Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote a lot of the music in this. But from the beginning, you kind of see him rolling down the street with his little piragua machine. And any of you guys who are from the Caribbean, you'll know this. It's basically, imagine a block of ice that someone just manually shaves and then puts like syrup over it. Growing up, that was always a highlight. Like when you live, in some of these hot places and you go there, like I said, throughout the movie, you are going to be doused with culture. It's going to make you miss home. I can just throw that out there now. But now that I got all that out of the way, let's kind of go about the movie a little bit. So this movie basically follows Usnavi, who's this young kid who's basically saving up all his money to, at the end of the day, live a dream that, his dad kind of wanted. And you kind of see this in most Spanish cultures where the parents always want something more for their children. No matter how much a parent will sacrifice or how big they get in the world, they always want their children to do more and more. So you kind of see this throughout the whole movie. And the way that this movie kind of shows you all these different characters, just the way that they blend together, it literally is a masterpiece. Like, that's the only word I can use to describe it. The dancing, the singing, it never feels forced. This scene right here is one of my favorites. Just as they're walking up the street, they're going to this basically the community pool. But as they're walking and dancing, the way that they filmed it, where you kind of see all these special effects kind of flowing through their hands while watching it, it is just amazing. And the way that they're able to blend all of this, something that me personally, I felt so connected to. Something that people always ask is, like, at least they've asked me, like, how does a Puerto Rican look like? We look like everybody. Like, there's people in my family who are, like, white, blonde hair, blue eyes. And then I have people in my family who are black, with like it's phenomenal how when there's one scene in this movie where they talk about coming through culture and they talk about like the Indian background, like the Tainos and all that, and it's so remarkable because the way that they casted this, for me personally, it didn't feel forced. Everyone felt so authentic, and even knowing some of the characters obviously aren't from Puerto Rico, Cuba, aren't but it all blended so well, and this was something that I was completely blown away by. But throughout this story, you have this connection with family, and in any culture, there's always kind of like the matriarch. For most Hispanics culture, it's going to be their grandma. Like basically the oldest mother in that room. Always you call them abuela, abuelita. That's kind of like your person. Something which I found so touching in this movie was so the main character Usnavi. He I think it's in the first song, he talks about his abuelita who isn't even his real grandma, but she kind of took him over and treated him like that. And for me, that brings up a lot of memories and a lot of thoughts because growing up, I had tons, for me, it was more like uncles and aunts. So like tios and tias who weren't blood related, nothing like that. Yeah, that's the abuelita, man. She did awesome. She crushed it. But but you kind of go through it and you're seeing kind of this whole family affair, and you're seeing also like the struggles with gentrification within Washington Heights, and you kind of see how they're pushing certain things away. There was one scene in this movie that kind of just like crushed me a little bit with so in a lot of Spanish cultures, there's always these like hand-me-downs or like these things that like your mothers did and you made it. And in this movie it was little napkins that were handmade.
Yeah.
And one of the most touching scenes was you see the grandma bringing it to the brand new dry cleaners.
Yep.
Basically like, hey, welcome to the neighborhood. Like, we just want to support you type of thing. Because in the Spanish culture, you're always very inviting. You always want to welcome people in. And she goes and I think it's probably like, I can't imagine it was more than like 15 napkins.
Yeah.
And you see this guy charging, and they make a comment earlier that the prices were like, I think like $9 for a t-shirt, which I get it, like inflation, all that. But for these like little napkins, I think the bill ended up being like over $100.
$108 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was something ridiculous, and it was for me. I thought it showed like a very positive thing where, the grandma was kind of like, oh, thank you, and kind of like just took her napkins back and ended it with like, welcome to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like even though like completely out of the price range, she was like still this joyful, light character. So throughout it, you kind of see all these characters unveiling. There's one character, the cousin, was his name Sammy, I believe.
Yes, the little guy.
Yeah, the little guy, Sammy, who helped Usnavi in the bodega store.
Yep.
So you kind of start seeing his story a little bit, and it's very neat because within kind of like this culture and this kind of world, everyone is related in one shape, way, or another, and you always are trying to help people grow, and you're kind of seeing this, and you're seeing this struggle within the community itself. So, for example, another one of the characters, I believe, was played by Leslie Grace, Nina. She actually made it out. Like, she got to Stanford, made it, like, did what everyone was like, you did it, Whole community was behind it.
Yeah.
Her dad, which started a taxi company, just kind of giving it his all just to make sure his little girl can continue and staying, in Stanford. She's going through all this turmoil herself, and she comes back. Obviously it's like summer break. She comes back, the whole 9 yards, and her arc was also extremely touching because that arc kind of, for me, focused so much on this whole, respecting your parents and always wanting to do kind of like what they want. but you reach a point in your life where you got to do what's right for you.
Yeah, reality kicks in. The reality of the circumstance of life.
And yes, and it was very touching, kind of seeing how that progressed. And I can relate to that, because for my parents, all they care for, like growing up is like going to college, graduate college, like become better, like do better. And it's always one of these things where you kind of see this power struggle when she kind of tells her dad some news at probably the worst possible time, which was a family dinner, and it blows up. All this blows up, but it was so touching because you literally see the emotion on her dad, just like expressing himself in such a way where it's like it's like, Mija, like, you don't understand. Like, I'm just, like, I'm doing everything for you.
Yeah.
Like, this is all for you. Which is, it's so, like, it was so touching. And in the sense, like, and most Hispanic fathers, like when you kind of cross them in a way, they always have this thing where it's like, look at me in the eyes and tell me. I don't know why that makes a difference, but it does. And when, like, he basically pulled that line in this movie, and she basically just like stared through this man's soul and was like, yeah, like laying it out there,
Yeah.
And it was so, like I said, this movie was just so incredibly done. The dancing that's throughout the whole movie, super authentic. First of all, like the salsa merengue that they throw in here, phenomenal. I know me and Sam talked very briefly a little bit beforehand. There is this pool scene, like the community pool scene, that one right there. I will put that one as probably one of my top 3 ever best, like, choreographed dance sequences.
Yeah, I gotta speak on this because when I watched it, me and my wife were watching it, and it kind of started off like they were kind of just progressing, and they were talking about like this potential lottery ticket. Then they kind of get to the pool sequence, and little boy Sammy starts to kind of like rap a little bit, and then all of a sudden, I was like, "Yo, there are hundreds of people in sync in a pool, and it's not even just it's choreographed perfectly; it's filmed perfectly, you guys. Like." Yeah. They go above the water, under the water, out and around. Like, I've never seen anything like that. And to be honest with you, to talk about the conversation at the dinner table, there was a moment that I kind of was like, oh, this is about to get really dramatic and really spicy because, her old friend, kind of interjects himself into like, what happened?
Yeah.
And something surprising happened. And it happened throughout the whole entire film. Nobody, no matter how messed up the situation was, no matter how compromised, nobody lashed out at anybody. Mm-hmm. Everybody legitimately throughout the whole entire film, from the beginning to end, showed respect. Like it was like everybody is equal. Nobody is above anybody else. If we're gonna lose, we're gonna all lose together. If we're gonna win, we're gonna push you to the finish line. And just that scene alone, I was like, that tells me everything. That tells me everything about the dad. It tells me everything about the relationship of these people, regardless if they're related or not. Like, they are a true family. And the expression goes to the community. And I think that that's what I was going to bring up to you. Like, yes, a lot of this is centered around like people like the dad and the grandmother. But from a foundation standpoint, like what did this mean to you from a community standpoint? Because I grew up, in the country, and I did have like neighbors that I knew that I trusted, and that's not my reality right now. Yeah. And something about this film showed me so much about the richness of life and community and fellowship that becomes a family and the expression behind it. And I was just really curious your take on that connection with this movie to you. I know that's a hard.
No, that's an awesome question. For me, the scene that showed that the most, which is interesting, was when the hairdressers and like the nail salon, when they were moving, and it's very typical. Like when in any Spanish house, like we make fun of it in our house and we call it the Puertorican Goodbye, where you literally are saying bye for like 30 minutes before people like head on out. And even once they head on out, like you're still out the door waving to them.
Right.
And that there was that scene where they're, you know, obviously through because of whatever reason they're moving out, you know, a couple blocks down. And once they were all packed up, the ladies were like, "Okay, we're leaving." And it was like dead quiet. And she was like, "Hello, we're leaving." And the from there it goes into, it was like a song about I guess the translate of it was kind of like lifting up your flag and lifting up together. And they kind of go into like the middle of what almost like imagine like four buildings, and you kind of have that middle courtyard, and everyone's there, everyone's just dealing with the heat, and these like women just like bust out and are like, you know, just because it's hot, like it's hot where we were back home, like we've dealt with this before, like it's just heat, like you're gonna sweat, cool. But that was the moment where you kind of see all these different cultures, and they kind of spotlight throughout the dance of that song. They do like a Puerto Rican section, they have a Cuban section, they have a Dominican section,
Yep. Yeah,
and they're all kind of dancing together. But what's so spectacular about that was how in sync everyone was, and for me, it's like you're almost fighting for a greater good, and that's kind of what's the most touching part about it, because you're looking at three completely different, you know, regions, people, you know, different styles of music, different styles of dancing, which to the normal person, they may not see it, they may just be like, oh, that's just salsa or that's just merengue. Well, but by the way people move, you can almost, it's almost like when like we all speak English, but if you talk to someone from Alabama as opposed to someone from like New York or Boston, like it's completely different.
Yep.
And it's the same way like that almost with our dancing. So seeing that scene and seeing the different dancing styles and all that, that for me was kind of like what unified this whole culture, family, like just goodness in this whole film. So yeah, and that scene, and I do agree with you, because growing up, you're always taught like to handle yourself with respect, and to, you know, to always like respect authorities, you know, the whole nine yards that most people grow up with. And in that dinner scene, like when Nina starts talking about like everything that was going on at Stanford, and at the end of it, when she goes, and you know, like when she was breaking down, she's like, and I thanked them afterwards. Like that crushed me, because I've been there.
Yeah.
Like I've been in situations like that where some like, and once you see the movie, you'll kind of understand what I'm talking about. But like, you're just put against a corner and treated so like wrong. And at the end of it, all, like because of how you know how life is, like you just say thank you, like I'm sorry that happened, thank you. And like there's throughout this movie, at least you know for me, like there were so many little caveats of things that kept popping up. You know, a funny like if you go to the Caribbean, and I was telling Sam and a couple of guys about this, and I crack up. There is like legit beef between like ice cream people and piragua people. Like that is there's no messing around there, you know. And they just for them to joke about that and like throw that in the movie, like intertwine with it, was phenomenal. And I will say, you know, obviously no spoiler, but stay till the end credits, or the end of the credits. There's like one final scene, which just had me cracking up. Like it was the perfect, almost like bow tie to this present, you know. But no, yeah. So throughout this whole film, like it's very interesting how you have all these dynamics and all these people in completely different statuses, you know, from being undocumented to, you know, just trying to make it, to trying to find inspiration in in anything. And seeing how it all just blends together. And for me, what I got out of this movie, out of everything, is like, A, like family is everything, and B, it's like almost exactly what you said, Sam. It's like, if we're gonna succeed, like we're all going to succeed.
Yeah.
And if you're going to fail, like we're all here to pick you up.
Yeah.
Like there's no like, well, maybe we'll do it, maybe we won't. But yeah, no, this was, I will say, and there's been a lot of great movies that have come out so far, but for me, just from the emotional side of it, and connection, kind of how real it felt for me. This is easily probably one of my top. I'll put this in my top 3 of this year, like no questions asked. Like it will be very difficult to see a movie overtake this, for me. And it's, yeah, this was just amazing. Like I would highly recommend this to anyone. If you remotely, and I'm trying to think how to, if you remotely liked Hamilton, or if you remotely like Crazy Rich Asians, you will love this, because this is basically it's like a smash of both. Like Crazy Rich Asians,
it's like a hybrid.
Yeah, like Crazy Rich Asians had so much color and so much culture put into it, and it was just visually, it was a pretty movie to watch. And Hamilton, you had all this like singing / rapping, great dancing, amazing storyline, but when you smash those two together, like you get this movie, and it is phenomenal. Yeah, like I can't speak enough of how great it is. Even this scene that you kind of see in this poster was just so seamlessly done. Like the way the camera moved, I will say the camera work in this movie is going to be something that I will probably be talking about a lot, because you are right. The more I'm thinking about like that pool scene, they do stuff that I have not, you really haven't seen before. Yeah, just the way that they were navigating through certain aspects of it. But yeah, this, like I said, I can't talk enough about it. And it's kind of nice, because even at one point, Usnavi was talking to like these little kids, and it's something that you kind of get brought up, when you're raised. It's like, always know like your culture, always know your background. And he was talking about, like all these famous like Spanish people, like Celia Cruz, and just the way that he was like saying it. And as soon as he said it, he was like, repeat it after me now. And just seeing them like repeat some of it, it's just, I'm telling you, like this movie will hit in ways that, I mean, it's mind-boggling, to me, just how touching it was at the end of the day. Now I've done a lot of talking. What do you think about it, Sam? Like I've been blabbing on this whole way, just because this one got me. But how did it come for you?
Look, I told you I'm the fly on the wall. No, I think that John Chu, that directed Crazy Rich Asians, did an amazing job directing this. And a lot of you guys, I don't know if you know it or not, that this was taken from Lin-Manuel's original stage play, In the Heights. And I have not had the luxury of being able to watch it, but I hear nothing but beautiful things about the story, the culture, the dancing, the choreography, and the fact that he's been able to now adopt something that is strictly for a stage play and make it in real life. And he's been talking around the idea of making Hamilton like a live action the same exact way. At this point, he's giving me everything. I mean, for me, much like he said, that I kind of grew up. It's like, okay, understand your surroundings, understand how to speak to people. What's the street? When you go and got to take your bus route back, what are you supposed to do? Repeat it back to me. Like those are things that are ingrained in you, and it kind of is really important and meaty, specifically with the conversation that Usnavi's having with these kids. But bro, I cannot speak enough about the choreography and the singing and the dancing. It is phenomenal. I haven't seen any. I'm a huge musical buff. Like I was kind of like, you know what? I love Rent. You know, I love the singing of Rent. I love the vibrancy of Rent. This tops Rent, and I don't say that lightly because they do something with this that's like the culture and the importance of the backdrop of what the actual community is even deeper than each individual character, even though each individual character has their own specific arcs and specific importance to each other, their past, their future. Is so amazing from a story standpoint, but they sing it, they immerse you into it, and they keep it reeling over and over and over again. And I don't know if you guys know too that you can go on now on Apple Music or Spotify or anything else, and you can listen to the original In the Heights soundtrack, and you can listen to the new one, and you can kind of compare the songs. So I highly recommend you do that. I started doing that as well. That's Lin-Manuel when he's a lot younger, playing Usnavi in the stage play. But dude, I got to talk about the one scene, and I don't know. I was like, Spider-Man, eat your heart out because they just crushed it. What is this scene? And this is not a spoiler, you guys. I'm not spoiling it. I'm talking about a scene, okay? This is not. It's beautifully sung. The song in and of itself is about the progression of who they are, who they're supposed to be, and what they have to be. And Nina, this whole entire film, up until this point, had been chasing a younger version of her, and she didn't know why. She was like, she would see it. And we all kind of look back to what we were, what our ambitions were, what we felt like we had to be. And sometimes in life, like it just kicks you so bad that you lose sight of what that is. And you're crippled with fear and you need something to turn you back around. And it wasn't just, of course, her friend here, I don't want to speak about because it's kind of a spoiler, but it's her whole community that brought her to this moment. And at this moment, they are kind of on the rafters. And they start to dance, and I was like, oh, "Okay, this is cute." I was like, "Well, what's she doing? Like, she's about to wait. She's climbing and dancing up the walls. What is going, bro?" From a technical standpoint, from a cinematography standpoint, first off, they blended. I want to say 3 different scenes that they had to reshot multiple different times. They edited multiple different times because it's literally impossible to do. Right? You have to have a flat surface and do it. Then you have to have like an actual vertical surface and do it. And then you have to figure out how to make that work because at the end of this dance scene, they get to the top of the building and they just kind of go for it. And I was kind of just like, I ain't never seen anything like it. Like I was going to ask your opinion on that because, I mean, what was your favorite number? I mean, it's easy to say the pool scene. The dance in the club scene was very funny. But from a technical standpoint, I don't know what they put into that.
So from I agree. From a technical standpoint, this probably involved the most editing work, I would say. The pool scene was probably altogether it was just, for me, it's like hockey to me. Like I find hockey to be the hardest sport because you literally have to learn how to walk again. Like you're on skates. And for these people to be dancing so seamlessly, and it's not just like 10 or 12 people. Like we're talking about like 100 people. Like we're talking about tons of like just perfectly in sync. And at first and it's the thing that I appreciated about that pool scene was you have your people in the foreground that you're kind of focused on. And as soon as the camera starts kind of panning back a little bit, you start kind of noticing more that everyone in the back is dancing. And they're all dancing in sync. Because at first, like, you kind of notice, like, 1 or 2 people, and you're like, oh, yeah, cool. But you're focused on the main singers. But then it kind of, like, your brain kind of clicks it in, and you're like, hold up. Whoa, like, what is everybody is doing this. Yeah, so, I mean, that one was... and the club scene was just good. Like the dancing in the club scene was.
They went and tore it up. They tore it up. And I mean, I think it's because it's so comedic. The first time you watch it, you're not going to appreciate it. But I bet you if you go back and watch it again, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh. And I'm gonna say this. I don't know if this is gonna mess you up. I don't want to mess you up, but there's a scene that goes from different places in time. You might be in the subway for a second. You might be going through an alleyway for a second. You might be back at a home for a second. And it is probably one of the most beautiful sung moments, one of the most important pivotal moments of this. It takes place after the fireworks. You'll know. And it might have been one of the most beautiful scenes in this film. But it's also one of the most emotionally resonant because there's one specific moment when this person is about to leave the subway and they ask a question, "Are you sure?" And I was kind of like, "Nope, not crying today, not today, nope, not doing it." But I was curious, like, I mean, they put a lot into that scene, like the colors and the transition, like that's a lot, bro.
If you notice the one part of that scene that was for me like the most like bone crushing was right before they start leaving the subway. You see all the dancers in that tunnel and they all sync up perfectly in a straight line.
Straight line. Yeah.
And like I saw that and I was just like, oh, I know exactly where this is going. I was like,
yeah.
And yeah, that one there is no hiding it, no denying it. There were I'm not even gonna call it man tears. It was like, little boy, someone spilled my Cheerios and my life was over. No, that scene was so well done, and it was the emotion that they're able to capture throughout that. You know, you're going from, because when you think about it, it's like the lowest of lows, but the highest of highs.
Yeah,
and just the joy that they had seeing what was around them, you know, at the present time. Like,
it's like throughout the film, you find yourself at this crossroads of like, do you feel sorry for these people? Could things be better? And honestly, even at the very last thing that happens, I was like, you know what? No, I actually feel really happy. Like, because they understand and embrace the circumstance for the better. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to have a movie that puts so many different obstacles in your way that you either have to overcome or you just can't, and you have to move forward against that. And from an emotional standpoint, like, it understands humanity. Like, the writer understands the humanity of the heart. And I think that's one of the things that I was kind of like, at the end of it, I was like, oh man, but then I don't regret it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like this happened. Yes. Could this have changed this way? Yes. But would it have been better? Who knows? At the end of the day, like, this is what it is. And I embrace it.
So the ending to me was probably one of the most like beautiful ways to end a movie, where you don't get any answers per se, but you know everyone succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
And their finish line may have not been what they started with their finish line, but at the end, everyone is exactly where they need to be.
Yeah. And
for me, that's just like, that's beautiful. Like when you start kind of focusing on all these different, you know, events and different situations, and just to see how it all culminates and how perfectly everything, just this complex spider web just ties itself perfectly at the end. It was just so good. Yeah, this is, like I said, you will not hear one bad thing about this from my point of view.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll rate it. And again, shout out to the cast. Corey Hawkins, Walking Dead 24. He's an amazing singer. He did an amazing job with this.
Yeah,
Anthony
don't forget
Ramos.
about Straight Outta Compton.
Oh yeah, straight up. Yeah, straight up. But what's Stephanie Beatrice that's in Reno 911 or Reno 99? Like, I didn't know.
Brooklyn 99.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I didn't know that not only could she sing, but she could play a completely different character in a very interesting way.
Yes.
But everybody brought their A game. Everybody brought their A game. Everybody's role was very vibrant and important. And for me, as a rating, I'd rate this at like an 8.5 out of 10, easily. As a musical, though, this is a 10. Like, as a musical, I will rate this out of 10. If I compare any other musicals I've seen recently, this is one of the best. This is easily one of the best musicals I've ever seen. So, yeah. So, what's your rating and thoughts on this?
So, I am extremely biased on this one, but this is my first 10 rating of the year. Like, I literally found zero fault in, like, and are there things wrong with this movie? Yes, there are. But when you look at the greater good of it and the message that it's sending, this is easily my first 10 out of 10. Like, this will be on repeat in my house. That soundtrack is on repeat. Like, it's that good. I would, this is a 10 for me.
Well, you already have it here, folks. We did the daggone thing, 36 minutes strong. We're gone. If you have any thoughts about In the Heights and you maybe possibly already seen the play, you want to know and talk about the differences of it, maybe we might come back and do a spoiler review. But if you guys would like for us to review Hamilton, we still have yet to do that. I would love to do that with this guy right here.
Wait. Then yeah.
We never have done a review on Hamilton, and I've been waiting. And Hamilton is a part of this household.
Yeah.
My son sings Hamilton. He's only 2.
I was like that. Same here.
So yeah, you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. We'll be back much later on. Take care, guys. Peace.
Peace.